Well, it's a much better day today. We're only in the 80s today. This morning when I got up, I had to put on a sweatshirt. It was a little chilly in the house. I had the windows open, so it was a little chilly. It was only, I don't know, 70 degrees, but after all those 90 something plus degree days and the heat index up to 105, it was a little chilly. So I'm happy with today. This is a really nice day. I got out and was able to cut the grass. As you know, it's just rained non-stop all spring. And so I've really been trying to figure out a way to cut the grass and minimize the amount of gas I'm using. So I've been trying to do it every other week, but then the rain would interrupt all that. So last Sunday, I started to cut the grass because it wasn't raining, and I broke a belt on the lawnmower. So had to wait a week for that, got it, put it back on. So today I was able to cut the grass. So things are looking up. It's supposed to get warm again, but I don't see it getting as warm as it was. I mean, it's going to get up in the 90s again, but then the evening time temperatures are pretty nice. So I guess it's summertime. So, you know, I just mentioned the lawnmower. People want to talk about technology living here on the off-grid. And the lawnmower was a big deal to me. I was like, I don't know, do we really want it? Should I just keep using the push mower? But it really reduced the amount of time I had to spend on cutting the grass. When I had push mower, it'd take the better part of a couple days. And of course, you know, you can say I should get in shape, but yeah, I'm 50 years old, so when I first started cutting, I was out of shape, and boy, I was wore out. Then I had all those breathing problems I told you about, so it made it even more difficult trying to cut grass with that push mower. I think I got the breathing problems taken care of. I've told you I started a carnivorous diet, and I think I'm pretty much cured of the breathing problem. I mean, I got to be at least 80% better. Every time you buy a piece of technology, it's susceptible to breaking, just like the belt did. So the more time you spend away from enjoying life because you got to fix things, and like I said, you know, I would have liked to have cut the grass last weekend and not this weekend, and we had lots of snakes in the yard. It was just, I don't know, technology gets in the way. But in the end, I'm not Amish either. I've got a couple comments I want to address. One of the comments was I can't live off grid, but if I could, I would drill a hole in the ground, and I don't know, I couldn't even understand what he was telling me. It was so complicated. And that whatever he was going to do, he's going to run pipes down there, it was going to produce electric. Thermo, geo, something or another. And I've thought about that. When I lived in the city, we couldn't have a wood stove because of insurance issues. So I always thought about running copper pipe deep in the ground with a water system, and it would recirculate. So the temperature of that water would always be about 60 degrees coming into the house. And so in the wintertime, it would help heat the house up, and summertime it would help cool the house down. It wasn't a complete thing. You'd always have to have a little bit of heat and a little bit of cooling, but regardless, it would have helped a little bit. But it was so expensive an idea. All that copper piping that I would have had to use and dig in the ground, and it was just way more than I could ever afford. So it never got done. Now I'm going to go down in the shade because that sunlight on this black selfie stick, like I said in the previous video, it's a motorized geoscopio thingy where it balances out the camera. It gets hot and shuts off. So you got to kind of put things in perspective. You want to be able to live your dream, you got to be able to afford it. Otherwise you're never going to live it. The other thing he said was if you had a stream, you know, maybe I'll go buy a piece of property that's got a stream in it. Well, we thought about doing that, and we found one that was pretty cheap. Now the thing about a stream, I've told you this before in previous videos, not in a while though, you can make electric, like a wheel and that kind of stuff. And that should produce electric. And it's all really interesting ideas. I watched a video. This guy, what he does is he tests off-grid stuff. I wish I could have found it again. I couldn't find it because I wanted to find it to share with this guy who was telling me that this is what he would do. But this person spent a fortune, an absolute fortune, building a big water wheel like you saw in the old days, and it would spin and run those sawmills and different things. When he got it put into the water and he was using it, it wasn't producing enough electric like he expected. And I think that's the failure with people saying that this is what you got to do. They have this bright idea, but they don't understand all the things and the nuances about it. They may be really good at construction. The guy who built the water wheel, it was a beautiful water wheel. I mean, he really did a fantastic job, spent a fortune on it, huge 6x6s. It was amazing, well built, but it wasn't spinning fast enough. He would have had to do a bunch more work to get this fixed, because this guy, this expert, comes out and does all kinds of testing, see what kind of voltage and amps he's getting, and it's just, he did all kinds of calculations. And that's the thing, the guy was an expert doing all these mathematical calculations, trying to figure out how to get this water wheel to produce enough electric. I don't think he ever figured out how to get the water wheel to produce enough electric as designed. So you just spent thousands of dollars building something that's a concept and it doesn't work. I get that a lot. One of the things people always want me to build is what is it called? A smokehouse, a smoker, whatever it is. So you can dry out your food. You smoke your food, and it's supposed to preserve food. Well, after tons and tons and tons of research, I realized it really doesn't preserve your food that much. You still have to vacuum seal it and do all kinds of things with it. It was cheaper to just go out and buy some canners. And so this is the thing that I really try to stress is I'm trying to live this lifestyle cost effective. So I was telling you, we found a piece of property, 10 acres, and it was just slightly more than this one, and it had a stream running through it. And I thought about, producing electric that way. But the thing you would have to do, honestly, is buy a hydroelectric generator. And they're not that cheap, or you could buy a bunch of them. I mean, they're several $100. The advantage to that is it produces electric 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never stops. So you wouldn't need quite as much wattage. Like with the solar panels, I got 1,000 watts of solar panels, but that's only for when the sun is up. So you wouldn't need that much wattage with a hydroelectric, because you don't have to charge batteries. It's just constantly producing electric. So the idea is sound if you know all the mathematical equations. Otherwise, you're just wasting money, and then you're hiring experts to come out and fix it. I got an email the other day saying, is there 20 acres around you cheap? I have no idea. I'm not a realtor. I don't know. But I got to thinking, and I even asked him, why do you want 20 acres? Well, I think that's what you need in order to live off grid. Because I get that a lot too. Oh, you don't live off grid. You don't have this. You don't have that. You're using a camera. Well, again, I'm not Amish, but I am living off grid. If you look up the definition, now part of the definition says you got to be far away from people. Okay, agreed. I'm not far away from people, but I do meet all the other requirements of living off grid, which is I'm not attached to the utility companies at all. To have 20 acres, if you're not rich, I mean, this guy says you got to need 20 acres cheap. If you're asking for cheap, you're never going to live the dream. You're never going to live off grid if that's what you want to do, because you've already priced yourself out. You're not going to find the 20 acres cheap, especially in this market. I mean, inflation, and it's not like they're making more land. So as more people populate this earth, less land there is. You're just not going to find it cheap. It's going to go up and up and up in price. That's just the history of property. You got to think in terms of, okay, this is what I want to do. I need to start scaling it back. So I told the guy who wanted to drill a hole in the ground and do this thermal thingy, and I told him, and I even said, I don't mean to be rude, but the reason you're not living off grid is your expectations are too high. You're never going to get there. It's too much work, too much money. If you want to live off grid, do it simplistically. Do it so you don't have to have engineers coming out and trying to figure out how to fix what you've already made a mistake with. Engineers develop solar panels. You don't really have to do much except plug them in. That is scaled back. It was something I could afford, something I could do easily. I didn't have to learn how to build a water wheel. I didn't have to learn how to make sure it's spinning fast enough and gear ratio it and all that. Oh, I think even in that video that I saw about the water wheel, they said in order for it to spin fast enough with the size and everything, that it was possible that it could actually fly apart, even though it was built very well. So it was just a waste of money, and he still didn't get what he wanted. This one person commented and said, something that I hear a lot is, "You've got too much technology to be living off grid." I find that interesting. I don't know what that means. When did technology become part of off-grid living? It's not. That's Amish living, and I'm not claiming to be Amish. I like my camera. That's the one I get all the time. "You can't be off-grid if you're on YouTube." Well, I can't really talk about how to be off-grid if I don't have something to communicate with. I'm not trying to isolate myself completely from the world. I'm just trying to be self-sustaining, so I don't have to rely on people to take care of me. Where I don't have to have the electric company taking care of me and I have to rely on them. I don't want to rely on the water company. I want to take care of myself. I want to be able to always have water. I mean, town my mom lives in frequently has water issues. I stayed with her for a couple months, and I parked the camper in front of her house while Carolyn's daughter was sick. And while I was there, water went out. I've never been out of water since I was here. I always have water availability, one way or another. It's because I have a plan and a backup plan. But when you get in the city and you hook up to the water company, you expect them to provide you with water because you're buying it. So no, I'm not removing myself from technology. So to imply that you have to be technology less to live off grid, again, you're pricing yourself out of it. You're never going to accomplish it. You have to have a car. So if you can check out that super thanks button down there, I'd really appreciate it. So I hope I can inspire you to scale back so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.